Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. And with me I have a very, very interesting guest. You'll meet him, the one and only. Well, let me first tell you about the sponsors of Oral Gibbs Live. It's made possible by the Windward Islands Bank. For all your banking needs in St. Maarten, it's the Windward Islands Bank, located in Phillipsburg, also in Simpson Bay, and in Cul-de-Sac. The Windward Islands Bank, your bank. And GEBE, the local water and electricity company. GEBE, serving St. Maarten for over 6 decades. GEBE. And we're back here with Oral Gibbs, and my guest on the program this evening is MP Pantophlet. How are you doing, MP?
Good evening, Oral, and good evening to our televiewers and radio listeners. Thank you again for having me on this very important program. I hope that our discussion will be fruitful and the listeners and the viewers will get information that I believe is necessary for all of us. Again,
Well,
thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure having you here because you're very active and you're easy to get in touch with. You're always eager to share information, and we appreciate that.
Oh, definitely, Oral. You know, the thing is, we are responsible for provide information to the people of St. Maarten. Our position, especially in my case as a member of Parliament, you often hear the cry, "What is going on? What are you all what are you all saying? What are you all doing?" So definitely, any chance I get to come on your program and to give on information, I definitely make use of such.
Well, they're crediting you as being the man that's keeping this coalition together. I remember the last time I had you in the program, you said, it's going to last 4 years. And every time I speak with people, they say, Pantophlet is determined to make sure this government lasts 4 years.
I'm so glad you brought it up. I'm glad because even this evening I got a call, Oral, and somebody
Really?
said, yes, definitely. So you're on the ball with that. They said, yes, you said it's going to last 4 years, but we're going to have election this year, you know.
Really?
So I smiled. I said, look, I'm going to use my crystal ball still, you know, and I believe it's going to last 4 years. And I give them some pointers, Oral, which I believe is important. One of the things that we have always faced with regards to the issue of St. Maarten is the matter of stability. And reports of the IMF, reports of the Dutch government, reports of the CFT. Whenever you have discussions with them, one of the first things they mention to us is the issue of stability. And as we all know, this is the longest serving government thus far. And I believe and I pray that we do last the full term. Because why? Number one, I said to them plain, and I've said it more than once, God forbid this government doesn't last. If you look at the age factor, the age group, the only persons who would actually be on pension would be MP Maarten, MP Westcott, and myself. The other 12 members of Parliament and the other 7 or 8 ministers would have to be paid for the term that they are there because of the fact that they have not received enough, they have not attained the pensionable age. So that would cost government money. And I said that's one of the points. I said, secondly, right now, as things are, if you go the full term, based on the Constitution, I think it's Article 45, it states that the Parliament will go from 15 to 17 members. Now persons complain, yes, how are you going to pay all that money because it's so expensive and so on. I said, look, with proper financial management, St. Maarten makes enough money to do so.
Right.
I said, but let us look at the fact. That's secondly. And also, the issue is this. I personally believe, and this is my own opinion, I've said it more than once, that the labor and the health should be separated. Because the minister's doing a tremendous job, I would say.
You mean the ministry then?
Yes, the ministry should be separated. It should be health should be separate from labor. It should be different ministers. Because why? Right now with COVID-19, the minister has paid a lot more time to the health, and for me, the labor has been neglected. And that's why I'm saying it should be separated into 2 different ministries. But again, that's my opinion as to, I think, in order to be able to properly manage, properly pay the proper attention to these very important things. Because as we know, right now, because of the issue of the short-term contract and so on, which I had a discussion in the Parliament. And of course, again, Oral, I don't want to have employers in general think that I'm against the short-term contract. No, what we are against as National Alliance, as we came with an initiative back in 2011, is the abuse of such. And I even mentioned the fact that in the 1940s, some of the arguments I'm hearing today were arguments that I heard in the 1940s which I read concerning Italy, who had the short-term contract, and the complaint of the employers was it is difficult to get rid of employees. And I said, look, Italy is a big country. Finding a job might be easier on a small island like St. Martin.
Right.
I think it's more difficult. In addition to that, why I would like to get the data as to what it was prior to the short-term contract abuse, economical-wise, and what it is today.
Right.
And I'm sure you see a big difference. So basically, that was my discussion. But with regards to the full term, I still using my crystal ball. I believe that will last the full term. And
you've been very adamant about the 6 months contract.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We had the SHTA, and I was a bit disappointed in the fact that one of the things the Mr. Henriquez of the SHTA mentioned was that, yes, government should ensure that laws in place, and I'm paraphrasing him, not to really quote him directly because that would be making a mistake, that the impression that I got and the way he phrased his words was that government should put the legal framework in place, and he's correct. But in the end, basically, it's on as if at the same time, while government has to put a framework, the legal framework in place, that at the same time, they will find loopholes in order not to follow the legal framework. And that's why I told him, I said, look, I said, one of the things that I believe that you fail to understand, that you want government to legalize morality, and we can't do that. It has to come from you as an employer. You see, and another thing that really bothered me too is the issue of the minimum wage, because the fact is, minimum wage cannot just be increased like that, for sure. It has to be controlled properly. At the same time, though, why should the government have to stipulate that you can't pay somebody below a certain amount? If you have an employee who's working very hard, who's productive, who's helping the company to grow, you should reward him or her. It should not be the government have to legislate that. So those are the discussions that we're having with these persons.
I think a lot of business see the minimum wage as, look, government says just $10, so
that's all you're going to pay.
$10. It doesn't say that you can't go above that.
Exactly.
And that, I think, is a big problem at times. But
exactly.
you were the only MP, unless I missed the other part of the meeting, you really stuck to your point and asked them some tough questions.
Well, you see, the thing is, we have to realize this. All the population, especially those that voted, they can't come in parliament.
Right.
They have us as a representatives, and therefore it is our responsibility to ensure that we ask the cardinal questions in order to ensure that what the people deserve is that they have to get. But again, if you don't do that all, then we'll be going in circles. So I think that's my responsibility. And of course, the people have placed me there for that, and I must live up to those responsibilities.
Well, tonight's show is an hour. We already have 8 minutes into the program. And I have a lot of things to ask you. I don't have any questions written down. I just did an interview before you came in for Speaking About a Thing that will air Wednesday and Sunday. And the gentleman said to me, you know, one of the reasons people don't like to come to your show is because you don't have any questions written down and they don't know what you're going to ask them. Well, you're a politician. And you know, I don't have questions written down for no one.
Of course.
But I got a lot of questions for you.
That's okay. But you see, those are the things. There's a thing that we started, I think last week, Monday, I think it was. It's called 1 hour questioning of the ministers. What we are doing right now, what we have done right now, they have submitted questions to the minister on a particular issue, and he or she has to come in and have 1 hour where we can question them on those matters. And I told him, I said, look, I understand the issue of giving the ministers the question in advance, but I say, as a politician, I believe you should be abreast of the current issues and prepared. You mightn't be able to discuss each matter specifically, but you must have broad knowledge. So I don't expect question to be sent to me in advance. I'm going to come into the program, whatever, and you ask if I can answer it, I will. If I cannot, I'll just say, well, you know, I can't. I'll get back to you on it, and that's basically it.
So you met the state secretary, right? Isn't she a cute, nice little lady?
Look, you know, when you said it, you make me laugh because why? Honestly, the first time when I heard about her from the Prime Minister, it had to do with the fact that she told the Prime Minister, look, with regards to the deviation and so on, that she said she'll take care of that. Okay, and for me that was a good gesture. And of course, some person said yes, but that's what she's saying now. Is she going to do it, yes or no? And I came out, I was kind of ahead of myself. I said, look, I believe that she will do so because she promised it to the Prime Minister. And why would the Prime Minister verbally or publicly state that the State Secretary will do X, Y, Z. So I said, based on that statement alone, I believe she will do so. And she did. She did. At the same time, yes, first impressions are lasting. One does not know what's going to come later on, but I always believe in giving somebody the benefit of a doubt. And I had a discussion with her, some of us in the parliament, I think it was the faction leaders. And one of the questions I asked her, because she said that she believes St. Maarten can be financially independent. And I said, correctly, I said, but the only way I can see us having, being financially independent if we have debt cancellation.
And what she said to
and
that?
then she said, that will be a difficult sell, you know. I said, look, I said, I understand that. I said, but you should sell it. Because the fact remains, as we are right now, and I went through the whole trajectory of the fact that we owe the government of the Dutch government almost 2 billion guilders now, 1.23 billion guilders. And we are paying them 12.7 million annually. Now do the math, Earl. The next 18, we're still paying.
You'll be paying forever.
Exactly. Yeah. As of April the 10th, we owe them another 300 million. That she would start paying. Now, what is it going to be? And then she said, yet restructuring. I said, I don't want any restructuring. I want to get debt cancellation. So that's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah. And you know, what bothers me is that it seems like your colleagues don't take this debt issue seriously. And I said it again earlier on the recorded show that will air 2 days from now. I said it again. It took the Nelson Tillies, what, 40, 50 years to arrive at $1 billion+ guilder debt. It took us less than 12 years to get at 1.4 billion guilder debt. That's a lot of money in a short period of time. Every man, woman, and child is responsible for 27, 28
that's correct, yes.
guilders. That's a lot of money for a very small island.
You know, what has bothered me over the years, and one of the not responsibilities, one of the issue that has been with me all the time is the fact that I've been there for the last 18 years, providing 2 years, I was out for 2 years. And to say, it is easy to say that it wasn't me, but the fact is I was part of the political arena from the period from 2003 to now. And the issue is, what has bothered me is I've always said in the past, I said, look, when things were financially profitable, let me use that word, that we should have put aside, we should have had a reserve, not to be in this position, because St. Maarten was doing well, not extremely well, but to the point where we could take care of ourselves. I can recall I asked an economist, and I won't call his name because he knew him very well, and he said, I said, do you think St. Maarten can manage itself financially? I'm talking 2005, 16, 17 years ago. And he said this to me, and I'll almost give out his name by saying he worked in the Central Bank of the St. Antilles, and he also worked in the Central Bank in the Netherlands. So he's somebody who knows, right. And he's a St. Maartener. And he said, all we need to do is proper financial management. And oral, up to today, every time a report comes out from CFT, a World Bank, or whatever, it is always mentioning the same thing, proper financial management. So the issue is what we're in today, oral, it is our responsibility, it is our fault because we have not been able to manage our finances properly.
You know, what surprised me is that I have publicly stated many times that I was in favor of the CFT. The reason why is because I always felt that we could not control ourselves when it comes to finances, and we never practiced fiscal responsibility. And having the CFT there was assuring that we would not be in the situation we are today. But with the CFT, we have the same problem.
Exactly.
So then what's the use in the first place?
Exactly. And all you see, and that's the thing, because their task was to ensure what you said, to have proper financial management and so on, make sure we control our finances. But with them there, our finances, our debt has increased. And as I told Mr. Grados when we had a closed-door meeting, and they always want to have closed-door meetings, but at the same time, the next day, they make the discussion public. I mentioned him, I said, Mr. Grados, I said, what do you think about debt cancellation? And then he said, yeah, it's a taxpayer's money. And I smiled. No, he said it's a political matter. I said, you're right. I said, but it's also social. It is also economical. You understand? I said, I know what your task is. I said, but as long as we don't have that in place, we'll not make it. And I mentioned also an example of Puerto Rico. I don't know if you heard about the debt cancellation for Puerto Rico. I mentioned that I think it was 74 billion, now it's about 7.4 billion. Because why? There was no way Puerto Rico was able to repay that debt. So I'm saying you are the Dutch kingdom, and I believe your responsibility towards us should be to that extent, because your Prime Minister wrote at the time, said in a discussion, I paraphrase him, he said, when it comes to the assisting European countries, he said we have a kitty with goodies, he said. Not necessarily debt, but grants. But when it comes to us, it is loans. And why is this? You know, so I said it will take them to understand that, look, if you give it a debt cancellation, I don't mind you look at us, you look over my shoulder, I don't mind, because you have given us that debt cancellation, but at the same time, allow us to grow at our own pace.
But here we go again, is that, again, you're one of 15 members of parliament. And is there any broad support in parliament for debt cancellation?
Well, let me put it this way. When we passed the motion, I think it was in June last year, we passed, during the budget meeting, I requested the support from my colleagues in parliament, and all 14 members of parliament agreed unanimously that we should request the government to discuss debt cancellation. I definitely hope I get more support now, because the fact is the motion was passed, and I spoke to the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister a couple of times, and they are discussing it. But I believe, as I told them the last time, I said, look, we should put more pressure, because the fact is April the 10th upcoming, there'll be a discussion as to how we're going to start paying this additional debt. And I'm saying this is a good time now to say, wait a minute, it is time for us to get the debt cancellation. But again, it's not going to be easy all, but I believe that we should get more support in pushing the request for the debt cancellation.
They will also have to put that on the agenda for the meeting next time with the Dutch.
Oh, as a matter of fact, we have a meeting with the IP committee going to take place in St. Maarten in May. So I believe that's one of the discussion points that's going to take place with regards to debt cancellation again. So let us see how that goes.
What's interesting is when the President of Parliament comes to St. Maarten to speak, the central bank, the central bank.
Mr. Doornbroek.
We have a central bank of Curaçao and St. Maarten. But, and I don't mean this in any bad way, and I don't mean this to make Curaçao look bad, but really it's the central bank of Curaçao.
When he was in a meeting, and I said, look, one of the things that I've realized, and it appears as if St. Maarten is the one who is really keeping things, really putting a burden on the what we call the Central Bank of St. Maarten agreement, but it's not. St. Maarten is doing her fair share. As a matter of fact, somebody brought up in the discussion, and I'm sure you might say, hey, you might say, you agree with Mr. Doornbroek yourself. I said, look, we have to keep a close eye on the dollar, how things are going, because right now I said, look at the way that things are going in the world. That was prior to Ukraine and so on. I said, China and Russia, you got to look at those two countries, because they wanted to come what you call the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, I think India and China.
Right.
And
those 4 big countries.
So they exactly work together to push out the US dollar. Is it going to happen, or I don't know. There's this Bitcoin going on and so on, which I have no knowledge of, but at the same time, you got to be very cautious as to how those things are going.
India just bought oil from Russia, and they paid it in rupees. First time. So I think you have these big countries, India, China, Russia, who was saying Brazil, that the petrodollar is going to have to go soon. When that happens, believe me, if that happens, I don't want to imagine what's going to happen to the American economy and us.
Exactly. And it's in all that. So when I mentioned it to him, he said, no, he said the dollar is strong, it's going to be strong. I said, look, be very careful with that. Even the issue with the oil. During the budget, I mentioned that based on reports, that the oil is going to go, and that's prior to Ukraine and everything, I'm talking about last year. They said oil is going to go to $125 a barrel this year and $150 next year. That was prior to what is going on. Then somebody said, Joe, you know why? Because we're going to what you call renewable energy. And at a certain time, oil is going to start to lose its importance, and therefore these people are trying to make their money now. Is that so? I don't know. That could be what we call it, one of those conspiracy theories. But if you look at it in reality, it kind of makes sense. And what makes me look at the matter right now, the U.S., who has placed sanctions on Venezuela over the years, is going to Venezuela to ask them to produce more oil. You know what I'm saying? What is going on here? You know, so it's very interesting.
Look, I'm pro-American. I love America. I studied in America. It's a great country with a lot of very, very good people. You know, unfortunately, the way the world is today, you know, I would love to see the dollar remain as the currency of the world. And the way things are going now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And small island countries like us are the ones that are going to take the brunt of it.
Exactly. And you mentioned the issue of I would love to see the dollar last. I mean, definitely. I was even saying, this is me speaking, not even any. I said, looking at how things are going, I said, if China and so on, let's see how we can maybe look at their currency, because which currency is going to be the strongest today? Tomorrow, we don't know. And we have to try to align ourselves with that. But at the same time, being in the kingdom, you understand, is detrimental to us as to who we can align with in order to help ourselves. And that's why I have a problem with that matter altogether. But what you're saying is correct. I'm very concerned about we as a small island state, what is going to happen to us if that happens. And like I told somebody the other day, the whole issue of the sanctions. Okay, when I heard about the sanctions, a friend of mine sent me an article, a law. Sorry, when he sent me the law, I looked at it because I would like to say I discovered it. No, I didn't. He said, reg swept, reg sanction. I said, wait a minute, kingdom sanction law, a kingdom sanction law. When I read it oral and I heard the Minister of Education mention it in his press briefing last week, Article 1, 2, 3, 4 says Aruba, Caribbean, Somalia are obligated to agree to sanction because why? It is a kingdom law, and Netherlands is part of the United Nations, Netherlands is part of the European Union, and therefore based on that law, we have no choice but to agree to it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how it is, that's our reality. And I don't like that because the fact is, you know, I think I said, look, now you are creating enemies for me, you know, really, I have no control over this, and it's a fact.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's happening right now.
So you're going to be collecting your salary in a few days from now, and I see your face, you're wondering, what is he going to ask
No, it's good.
Well, a few days from now, you're going to collect your salary. Now, are you prepared to convert your entire salary into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin?
Yeah, I listened to Bryson, MP Bryson mentioned that, and you know, it was interesting though, about 5 years ago, someone came to me with it, you know, and I have no idea how it functions. I didn't pay attention to it. I think I should have at the time, but I don't have the knowledge as to how it really functions, so I have to leave that alone. I think MP Bryson is a good one. I believe he knows what is going on, and he is doing that at the end of this month. And kudos to him, but I'll be a little reluctant until I find exactly how this works. And interesting, I think the U.S., is it the U.S.? I think they're against it. Some regulators are saying because apparently they don't have enough control over that because you're kind of independent. And I don't think that any organization, that if they can't control your movements, your finances, they're very particular. So I saw a report where they were complaining about the Bitcoin and so the cryptocurrency and so on. It is not good, it's not regulated, people can lose their money. All the thing I read, but again, as I said, I have no knowledge of how it functions, so I'll leave that alone for now.
Yeah, no, a lot of governments are looking at it. In fact, some central banks in Europe are eager to get it because then they control your life, actually.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
There's where I have a problem.
Exactly.
You know, too much government control, and now they're going to control even your wallet. So you have that currency, and the bank can decide, well, you know what, MP Pantophlet, you have X amount of currency in crypto, dollar, whatever you want to call it, but you can't buy a Toyota. You have to buy a Mustang. And that's just one example.
Yes.
Or you can't go to this restaurant. You got to go to that restaurant. You know, it's crazy. It sounds ludicrous, but they can do that when they get that control of that cryptocurrency.
Of course, and that's why I said, you know, and that's what I'm saying. What you're saying now, that's even more scary because the fact is, again, it's all about control. It's all about control, and it's a dangerous thing when they have that kind of control over you, because the fact is, once somebody controls your wallet, or then they control you.
But,
you know, that's how it is.
You know what, MP? 2 years ago, I would have said this will not happen. But I think the pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, opened the eyes of many people to what governments can do, how government can overstep their authority and control people's lives and tell people, well, you know what, you have to have a vaccine. If you don't have that, if you don't have this vaccine, then you can't go into this restaurant, you can't drive on the bus, you can't go on the plane. We saw that. That happened. And then guess what? Now it's gone. You could say all you want. Trump said it was going to go, and it's gone. It might come back, and it might kill me, or it might kill somebody, but it's not going to go with the whole world. But the problem here is when you have government really coming down on people, saying, you got to wear a mask, you got to do this, you got to do that. I have a problem with that, because in the end, and we saw it in Europe, you want to go to a restaurant, well, you can't eat in there unless you show your vaccine card. You want to fly, you can't fly unless you show your vaccine card. That is the beginning of the end of us as people, where governments control us.
You see, and that's why the issue again, and you said it correctly. When I heard about it, I think it was March, April, one of my colleagues said, yes, but when you have to travel, you have to take an injection to go X-ray. I said, yeah, but it's different altogether. I said, this is about control. Your movements, what you do, what you don't do, and so on. And when we had to go to the US, if you're not vaccinated, you're in trouble. And now it is gone. But again, whatever it is they wanted to accomplish, they have accomplished in the meantime. But as you said, in the future now, what's going to be next?
What is so scary is that this small group of people who are already very wealthy are now more wealthy than ever. The huge pharmaceutical companies, and if you watch the evening news from the networks in America, 80% of the advertising comes from the pharmaceutical companies. So, and you watch the news, you can see how they're pushing it to you with all the different medication, etc. So it looks like we are losing and giving up more and more of our freedom. And unfortunately, I see it also here in St. Maarten.
Of course. Look, you know, one of the things, I never forget, I attended a meeting, I think it was held, with Island Council to show far back. And they were talking about insurance. We were at the Bel Air Community Center. And they were talking about, you know, this insurance company, what you have to do and so on, and the plans and the policies. And one of the questions, when I had a question time, and I got up and when they said, anybody has a question in regards to how these things are done and so on, and my question was, I said, my answer was, I said, look, I said, yes, I have an answer. I said, and this is what I said, it sounded kind of harsh. I said, a lot of fat guys with big cigars go in a room and they make a decision how to run the world. Yeah. You know, because that's what goes on. They sit down in a small group and all. There's a thing called ET Market that I get on my phone. And all when I go to that stuff, these pharmaceutical companies and these billionaires made more money in the last 20 months than any other time in history. From selling medication, from selling these things and so on. So they're making money out of it. It's all about business for the small elites.
Believe me, you know? They're very upset and angry that Omicron came and was so mild.
Yes.
Because they still want to force people to take all these different vaccines.
Exactly.
And they're wishing for something more dangerous than Delta come along again. This is how crazy it's become. But and it's unfortunate.
It's a matter of greed, or it's a matter of greed, you know, but there has to come an end. This can't continue forever, you know what I mean? So I don't know if I told you one time, there's a book I was reading, The World is Flat. Yeah. And somebody said, when the world, and that's why somebody tell my colleagues, I say, guys, look, the power is the masses, you know what I mean? And people don't like this word, and they say, I'm a member of parliament, I shouldn't say this, but there's certain things, oral, does not change, but through a revolution, unfortunately. And why do I say this? The gentleman said in the book, he said, when the masses find themselves working hard towards the bottom, in other words, they're working hard when I'm getting less, they're going to revolt. And I don't want that to happen, oral, but there's certain season and time, and once you continue doing the same thing all the time, you call it madness, people are going to revolt against it. And that's true history. You know, you can't change that.
Right. Well, you know, we're halfway through the program. When we come back, we want to talk with you some more RNB, so we're going to right back. Please stay right here on Oral Gibbs Live.
In order to know what you want out of life, you need to observe, listen, and try it yourself. Promises, we can make it. If we work together, that's just how it is. Let's stand strong, and serve the land. Working hard as one nation, yes we can. The more difficult it is to achieve, the more satisfying it is to make it. Just believe in us, we'll see you through it all. Oh, never give up. Oh, never give up. We can make it. Never forget those who were there for you. And if you dream big, you might just achieve it. The power to serve, standing for community. OGB, got the power to serve, the power to serve. We got the energy. OGB.
You're watching Oral Gibbs Live. I'm here with the one and only MP Pantophlet. He's my guest in the program. It's always a pleasure having MP Pantophlet on the program. MP Coho. Now, the last time I had MP Bancampa here, and I said to him that the Coho is law. He said, no, it's not signed. I know it's not signed yet. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, because the last time around, 14 members of parliament voted, only one did not vote. Mm-hmm. It's going to come to the floor of parliament for ratification, right? To sign it.
Oh, definitely.
And so, what are you guys going to do?
I love that question. First and foremost, one of the things that the one member that didn't agree to us, because what we did in Parliament, the majority, but you have to say Parliament anyhow, told the government of St. Maarten to do whatever it takes in order to assist the people of St. Maarten. As we all know, and I have to keep bringing that up all the time, and I'm glad you mentioned that issue with the Coho. Some people behave as if St. Maarten government just gave in automatically. And I have to remind them of the fight, and we really know St. Maarten government even not convicted, but accused of holding back the process. Because why? In July, they had a discussion with the CFT and so on, and the Minister of Finance and the government, of course, decided, wait a minute, we're not going to submit ourselves to this 12.5% operational cuts. So
the Minister of Finance did that?
And yes, and the entire government. Okay. They fought. We fought from July, August, September, October, November, December the 13th. It wasn't a Friday, but December the 13th. They realized there were no more funds in the kitty. Nothing at all to pay, no civil servants to pay, nobody. Teachers, subsidies, nothing. And that's when they said, something, look, we can't fight anymore, there's nothing coming in. COVID really wrecked us for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, so they gave in. And that's how we agreed to the 12.5%. Right now, the Coho was changed, I think, twice. I think it went to the Council of State, the Council of Advice in Curacao and St. Maarten and so on. They said some changes were made to it, sent back to the government and so on. Now it's in Parliament. After 20 months, it's in Parliament now for discussion. Yes, the government agreed to the conditions and so on, but the final decision right now all is Parliament. Because let's say, for instance, if we say, look, we don't agree with it, and we say we vote against it, then we got a challenge. Because why? Although the government agreed with it, Parliament has the final say. And right now, I can't wait for us to discuss it, because the fact is there are certain things in there that you say, well, you do something, nothing wrong with it, but personally, from what I see right now, there's a lot that is not right with it, in my opinion, and of course some colleagues also, because we have to be very careful as to the authority that this Coho is going to have with regards to our responsibilities as Parliament and as government. And there are some things that are far-reaching with regards to when it comes to the government-owned companies, where they have a lot of insight into those things. So I'm saying, let us discuss it and see exactly what we can do, because the fact is one to say, okay, The coal is off the table, but then what is our plan B? You can't go to the Dutch and say, well, I don't want this, but then what do you replace it with? What do you want inserted in there?
But I heard they're already very quietly executing some of it already.
Let me say this. I would agree, Oral, that some of the reforms that were supposed to take place, as a matter of fact, the reforms that in there, some of them were already discussed prior to Coho and were being worked on. And this work group that is there right now, some of the reforms are already being executed. That's a fact. But there's some of them with regards to when it comes to our authority now, as parliament and as government, and with regards to, let's say, getting more involved in the government-owned companies and so on. That is going to be a major challenge, because that's where now we're going to discuss exactly how much are we as parliament to submit ourselves to this, because the fact is, if you want all that authority, all that control, and then we have to pay for it. And I'm saying, wait a minute, let us talk about the financial aspect, number one. Let's talk about capacity. Let's talk about how far you want to involve yourself in our our authority as government. And that's where the discussion is going to take place.
No, you're a member of parliament. It's different than the government. You support the government in a coalition, the government with the up party, and you appear in this program 1 to 2 times a year. I've heard you on other programs. You're really all over. We can't say the same for the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. And what you have here are people who they don't know what's going on. The population is kind of worried because you have a government that is at times very reluctant or don't want to address issues and appear on certain shows unless it's just, say, the government show. And a lot of them don't want to come here because, as I said earlier to you, I don't have anything written down. It's all in here, and I just follow it, go through. And I think the population of St. Maarten is not being served well by government because government is at times very reluctant to really inform the population. You can hold your Wednesday news briefings, no problem with that. But you should also, like in other countries, they appear in all the talk shows, not selective.
I think it's important that, you see, one of the things that we realize is certain responsibility that we're in. And Parliament, I have my role to do, and government has its role to do. And one of the things I think that has to happen is that the government is the executorial part of the country. And those are the ones who are more in the forefront. And I believe one of the things, when people feel they feel that they're not informed enough, then they form their own opinions. Yeah. And I will say this, and people might say I'm defending them. I believe that if they come out more, definitely as you said, and give more information as to what is taking place, the press briefing is one thing, yes. And at the same time, though, I think it's important to go more into detail as to what is taking place. A lot is happening behind the scenes, but you have to see it for yourself. And it's not good when people are left to imagine what is taking place and so on. And again, if you're in the kitchen, you know, you have to realize that you're going to get a hit and so on. This government, people might look at the issue of the term, which is over 2 years right now, and they're young. And I believe as time go by, they will learn, because the fact is, information to the public is key. It's not everything you can come out one time and say it, but there are things that I believe is important for the public to know, and that's where I believe they should play their role where that's concerned.
But there's a resentment of the media by this government, and this is unfortunate, because I've never seen this type of resentment in my life, and I've been back from America since 1983. I've been doing television since 1984. So I've been around a very long time, and I've spoken to all the major players in the former Nelson Tilly's, even particular Cruz and prime ministers of all the different Nelson Tilly's governments over that period of time. And basically most of the people, when Richard Gibson was Minister of Finance, he would come and he'll talk. When Hassing was Minister of Finance, he'll come and talk. You know, so what I'm saying is, and now this is a crucial time in the history of this island. You can't manage this country blindly. You can't let the people form ideas on their own. You're a Minister of Finance, you're a Prime Minister. And I told the Prime Minister one time when she was in Pro, I said, you're the Chief Executive Officer of St. Maarten as Prime Minister.
So you're saying, so you invite them and they don't come?
Well,
or?
I don't waste my time anymore, basically. So people won't see them here. If you see them here because they pick up the phone and call me, but I won't pick up the phone and call them. But it's unfortunate because at this crucial time in our history, when the people have a right to know, which your party have always used that slogan.
Yes, of course.
The people have a right to know. And this is why it's so unfortunate, because you're one of the backbone members of that party. And that principle of the people have a right to know, that principle of working for the working class, I'm not seeing it coming from the party that you spent your whole life standing up for, especially with this government right now. And pardon me, MP Pantophlet, but I have to say this because, and what I'm saying, I speak for a lot of other people who don't have that voice to speak. They're very, very disappointed because they're hearing things, but they don't know what to believe. And if they come in this program, believe me, I'm not going to make them look bad, but I got to ask the questions like I'm pointing out to you right now, and which I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I have to bore you with this.
Oh.
But the last time I had MP the river here, I said to her, she was shocked. I said, no, people are not happy with the government. A lot of people don't even want to vote next time around. So that's a big problem.
What you're saying there is unfortunate. What you're saying, or I would like to say I'm not hearing that, I'm hearing that. I believe the thing that is important, when COVID-19 came out in the initial stages, this government, especially the Minister of Finance, I don't know whether he did it in collaboration with the other members, but I believe he did. The first thing he did was regards to the issue was the SSRP, the stimulus plan. That came from him because he realized that hotels were closed, no income is coming in and so on, person going to be unemployed, and the first thing he started was the SSRP. And he even used funds that were available, awaiting the support from the government. So he didn't wait on the Dutch government, to get the financial assistance. He started first with SSRP by assisting the people awaiting the funds from the Dutch government. So I believe that that initial step was something that definitely warrants, saying that he did and the government did their utmost. But the issue is right now, because of things are turning around and things are extremely difficult, it is important that the people get more information as to what the other steps are that has taken place. And that part, I think, is very important.
But you see, MP, the Minister of Finance spent in 18 months 86.23 million guilders in that SSRP. Part of that money was squandered. A lot of that money was abused. There are businesses who took that money who should have never received that money. It also created unfair competition among the business community. In fact, even the SSGA mentioned it in the meeting in Parliament. Okay, so I don't want to crush the Minister of Finance, but I told him to his face, and you can tell him what I told him over a year ago. When I said to him privately, and I won't repeat it here tonight, but he knows it. And from that time, we had a falling out. It wasn't a nice discussion, but unfortunately it happened. I have never been in favor of the SSRP. Having said that, I can see the need for support, payroll support for certain business, but 86.2 million guilders in 18 months, and what do we have to show for it? Yes, some companies abuse it, but at the same time, what about the other companies who had to struggle and couldn't get it? Look, the Minister of Finance is a very nice guy, and he's from here. I know his parents, his grandparents. He meant well, but there was too much money for too little amount of companies, and that it was abuse.
I would not say I would not say that there was not any abuse taking place. As a matter of fact, as we speak, there are investigations going on, because one of the things that he had made quite clear, he said after the funds have been given, there would be investigations to ensure that the companies who got these funds did with it what they were supposed to do. So as we speak, it is ongoing. And definitely, I'm quite sure you're going to hear, as time goes by, whether companies fined and so on, a penalty in this. That is going to take place because it is a large amount of money. And now is the time to really investigate which is taking place as to whether companies did what had to do. Because we know for a fact, Oral, that there are definitely those who, let me use this word, who, based on criteria, probably did not deserve it, and they got it. And there are those who really did the right thing with it. But again, based on the, I can't remember the organization, it's not the SORB, I think it is, but they're busy right now doing an investigation as to how the funds that was given to these companies, whether it went to the right individual, yes or no. That is going on right now as we speak. So it'll come to the forefront for sure.
And there were companies who didn't need that money at all. And I've said it privately, I don't want to say it publicly. I know the companies, it's wrong. It was wrong for the government to give them that when they didn't need it. And they were already covered for it. You know, so here we have an island today where our people, MP, and you know our people are going through the most difficult time in the history of this country. And they're sitting down and they're watching outsiders come into the country, doing very well, starting businesses and making money, and then closing shop and go and disappear and never pay a penny in taxes. And then we are hunted down like rabbits in the bush by our own government for a few killers in taxes, and our senior pensioners are suffering, having to pay taxes on money that they shouldn't pay taxes on.
You know, it's interesting. The tax office, we're trying to fix it for the last, I don't know how many years now.
I've heard it for a million years.
Yes. And lately, I think it's something like 40 million. I think when Minister Gibson was there, he said that 40 million would be needed in order to upgrade the tax office. It hasn't happened as yet. They see if they keep putting blocks in a way. The issue of tax collection, I find, is very, very difficult. As a matter of fact,
it's difficult and unfair.
It needs upgrading, all because why? Even I personally got summons for things that I already paid for. I got a letter up to today, which I'll just pick out my receipt and show it to them. But the whole issue is this. Again, when you don't do things properly from in the beginning, you find these problems. What you're saying about persons or businesses being established in St. Maarten and not paying their taxes, I have always been against this thing of the tax holiday, number one. And secondly, everyone that is making money in this island should pay their taxes. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, there are those who get away, and they always look at the way what we are called the low-hanging fruits.
Well, you know,
what is happening right now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, and all I am saying right now, our tax collection, we have to be very cautious. Government needs money. Let me tell you, I was told one time by, let me say, a tax official from the receiver's office. Government have to get their money because we have to pay the salaries. That I was told flat out. I say, yes, I understand that. I say, but the fact is, you cannot come and tell me that I must pay you XY amount, whereas I have rent, mortgage, and so on to pay. And I was a bit upset because the fact is, I understand the responsibility of the receiver's office, but at the same time, there should be a balance. And where you said there, which unfortunately happens too often, where there are those who set up shop, make their funds, and they leave. And then we who are low-hanging fruit are caught, are the ones who have to pay the brunt of this. Now, what is happening right now, government, right now as we speak, they're looking at, see how they could let me not reconstruct, but reform the tax office.
Why you going to reform the MP when it's on the staff? It's on the staff for so many years. They're overworked.
And there we go again now. Again, when you let things go far, go like this for too long. And in the early 1990s, 1994, 1995, and I forgot, I got an assessment back then from 89 to 92, 93. And what happened is, because again, they were so understaffed that by the time the years passed by, it's only to realize that, wait a minute, this is not up to date, that's not up to date. We had persons came from Curacao, people from the Netherlands came, worked in the tax office, brought it up to date, but again, we fell behind because why? We did not upgrade, we did not train our workers. And today now, as you and I speak, we are still in the same situation because why? We have not really had a chance to really do what we have to do.
We don't pay them, and we don't pay them either. They're underpaid, so nobody wants to work.
But you see, but the issue is now, if you have no funds, how are you going to pay the proper funds? You see, then again you have to collect, and to collect now. And I agree with you. The pensioners. I had a discussion with a gentleman at APS once. I think it was a couple of years ago. I said, well, why is it that you wait until I'm at a pensionable age, make me pay more of the taxes? Why is it not when I'm making the salary, collect it now? He said, no, that's how the system is. I said, we got to change the system. Because if I've been paying taxes now, why it is now when my salary is less, I'm paying this amount of taxes? And that's why he said, look, he says, up to us to make the changes in legislation again. In 2005, I asked our then commissioner of the Democratic Party, I said, how much does government collect from pensioners in taxes in total? And they said, and at the time I was green, I didn't have much experience, so on. They said they can't give me that information. But then had I had a little more knowledge, like I have now, I would not just look at the budget and see exactly what is what. Because today I find it's about 2 million guilders. And I'm saying, if the pensioners are paying 2 million guilders, if you're collecting that from the pensioners, then we must find some place in the budget or where we can collect that money from and give them what you call, using Dutch kwijtschelding, or cancel their taxes. But at the same time, though, it cannot be for every pensioner, because there's some of those who have good income and so on. Let them pay not the same 30 or 40%, let them put it this way, but let them pay less. But it should not be that somebody's making 1,000 guilders or even less, and then you're still paying taxes, and then they got to pay premiums also for SZV. So it's what you're saying. It's something that it really has me bothered, because the fact is I'm hearing this complaint over and over again, and it seems as if it's a vicious cycle. But we must address it, and address it ASAP, because people are angry. People are upset, and honestly, this government is definitely under a lot of pressure. That's a fact. I can't say no to that.
So why are people upset with the Minister of Justice for doing her job?
Look, I got a couple of calls. You know what I mean? I said, look, one of the things realize that's a law. And the Minister of Justice is following the law as it is. There are certain guidelines that she have implemented and so on. I have looked at certain things, and I advise her that there's something I would do differently. And of course, it'll take a time, because I'm looking at different regulations, because the fact is, one of the things that I have said to the minister is the issue of persons who are employed and the employer refused to file for them. I wrote an article entitled, Employers, You Do Your Part, or Do the Right Thing. Because why? You do controls, pick up the employees, and then the employer doesn't get a fine. You know, I'm saying, what's the use?
What is use? It's on the books.
Exactly.
It's on the books.
That's what I'm saying. So exactly. So I'm saying, as long as I don't see fines that are combined with the controls, then I will not be pleased.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise, you'll have, we're told that the employee has 6 weeks to ensure they get their documents in order. But the employers who are still refusing to submit the request for them, I'm saying, well, if that's the case, issue the fine. It's on the books.
Isn't there a maximum of 5,000 guilders?
Up to 10,000 guilders. Yes.
10,000?
Up to 10,000 guilders. So, you know, so I'm saying, all that money. Why is it? And that's why we have the dispute, because I'm saying, as long as I don't see that, I will not be pleased, because I'm getting called. I said, look, Oral did the immigration? Yes, but did your boss? No, he didn't do anything, or no, she didn't do anything.
So who's supposed to enforce that part of it?
That's the issue, because apparently I understood the Justice Ministry is trying to get a law in place, because they're not allowed to collect fines.
Right.
You see, I believe the inspection, I think the Labor Office has that authority. That's why I told the minister, I said, you should sit down together, Minister of Labor, and fight and see exactly how you can do this thing, because it's important.
And time is going fast. I got to ask you this other question. Taxing property. You know, you come from a big family. In fact, the entire Parliament of St. Maarten, 50 members combined, make up 15 of the biggest families on St. Maarten.
Of course.
With a lot of real estate. What's your position here? Do you think we are ready to tax property in St. Maarten?
Let me tell you something, girl. It's short and sweet. Put it in the back burner, you burn that, okay? Look, you know, I always said in plain, we are not Holland. We are not Holland. You know, I heard the safety mention about increasing taxes. Increasing taxes on what? No. Let us discuss exactly what is reality in St. Maarten. There are certain laws are in place. There are certain institutions there are those who have been paying, those who didn't pay. And I'm saying, those who have not paid, there might be a reason why. Let us then discuss how we can do this. Because the fact is, and Mr. Henriques from the SHTA told me, yes, but things are hard now. I said, that is true. I said, but things were not always hard. You know what I mean? Right. So let me find exactly what happened during that time. And I don't want to close you down. I said, look, let us discuss. Can I pay $10, whatever it is? Let us do so. But again, the pensioners are the ones who have to get a break.
I got to ask you this other quick question. The Martin Luther King School in Dutch Quarter.
Yes,
that school has been abused for years now.
You know,
what's going on there?
The minister.
No, I'm not blaming the minister here. Yeah. He inherited a lot of the
exactly,
property. Okay.
You know, so. and that's.
But that doesn't mean he shouldn't take it.
But and that's why he said he closed it down. People say, well, he shouldn't, but then he cannot continue in the condition is in it. It is dangerous.
Yeah.
It is very dangerous. So I really hope or that the matter is solved, is not going to solve today, because the fact is, again, it calls for finances. And you know the red tape with the World Bank and so on, the guidelines and procedures and so on, monies are being allocated, they say, but to access the funds is always the issue.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
And you know, and they talk about education. I see where in the package they talk about education. I'm saying, in what form? Infrastructure or the system, you know, because I want to get infrastructure in place first. Let me hand the system
Exactly.
myself.
I think education should be a priority.
Exactly. Definitely.
Right, yeah.
Definitely.
Well, MP, we have 40 seconds. Is all yours in closing.
All right. Thanks again for having me. Very important discussion. You put me to think and so on. I think it's important. I hope the viewers and listeners got some information from us, and I hope you can do this again. Have a good evening, and God bless every one of you.
Well, it's very good having you in the program, and it's always a pleasure having you, and hope to have you back sometime soon, all right?
Definitely.
All right, thanks. MP Pantophlet was my guest this evening here on our All Gibbs Live. See you next time. Until then, take care. Bye.